and if I sense that there's a belief that's not backed by evidence, I examine it and
Yeah.
I'll change.
Yeah.
And this is one of those that has been relatively immune to that process, I guess. What do I think is true? Well, okay, so I'll tell you about this belief, and there's a there's like a strong form of it and a weak form of it that
Okay. Sounds
we can
good.
choose which of them to focus on.
Okay.
So the maybe actually a little bit of a preface to going back to the conversation we had earlier. I think this, when we first started talking about beliefs, I was wondering, do I even have any beliefs? But well, when we talked last time, I realized more that beliefs are not necessarily just like an explicit stated truth. They're also manifest in the actions you take, and this is one of them. I think more is like, I don't know if I would ever really claim this, but it's heavily influenced the actions and the choices I've made in my life.
Okay.
Okay, so the strong form of it is something to the effect of, my life should be about doing the most good possible. That's how I should structure my life, and that's how I should make the major decisions in it and live my day
Okay.
to day.
I'm gonna write it down just so that I can like
Okay,
remember it. So the strong form is my life.
should be about doing the most good, doing as much good as I can, maximizing the good I do.
Okay. Yeah. Maximizing the good that I do. Okay. All right. So what's the weak form?
And then the weak form would be, you should do good.
Okay. You should do good. Okay.
So
I
not
like that.
necessarily, like, my life is about optimizing that function, but more
Yeah.
that, like, doing good is doing good is a good thing to do. It's something
Yeah.
that you should aim for.
Yeah. It also would go well on a greeting card. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'll often be restating things that I hear to make sure we're on the same page. So
Okay.
it sounds like the general idea is doing good in the world is good for you, or is how you should structure your life, or is something like that.
It At least partially how you should structure your life. I think the question of, like, is it good for me, doesn't necessarily need to be tied into that, but
Okay. So does that suggest that there's something, even if it doesn't benefit you, you should still do it? Is that kind of what you're saying?
yeah, in a way,
Okay.
it's tough. I think it's tough to really, though,
Okay. All
nail
right.
down that question of what's good for me, but yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting is both of these have the word should in it, and should's an interesting word.
Yes.
What what do you mean by should? Where does that come from?
Where does it come from? Yeah, I guess, and I think this is where a lot of my the the ultimate conflict comes from, is that there's some source of direction, or I don't know what to say because I should, but there's something outside myself that determines truths and good, better or worse, and that thing that I'm tapping into says, this is the right thing. Good.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. So let me try to restate what I just heard there and see if it sounds good coming back. So maybe I'll try simple. So it kind of sounds like you're saying there's a world outside of you.
There's a world outside, and oh, sorry, go ahead. I won't-
No, it's okay. It's okay. If yeah, if you want to jump in, but there's a world outside of you, and that world may somehow be suggesting that you should do things.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay. Is that is that thing that's suggesting that you do things at all supernatural?
I wouldn't say supernatural.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I wouldn't also, like, I wouldn't call myself necessarily an atheist, but I would say more that if there is something that we would call God, it's a model of something that is natural.
Okay. All right. So this isn't like a divine proclamation as much as it is somehow something that the universe is or
Sure, but I think, so I grew up, yeah, in a Christian tradition, not
Okay.
very strongly, but it's there, I think, underlying a lot of my thinking, and
Right.
and I do think that that kind of belief in a God that says things should be certain ways is an element of why I have this view.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so even if something doesn't necessarily help you, there's a way to figure out that things cause good in the world, and you should, generally speaking, do those things. Is that, have I captured all the little bits?
Yeah, and maybe back to the question of like where does it come from? Is it divine or not? I think also in that belief is that even if there's no God, just practically, pragmatically, this is a good view to have.
Okay. All right.
Whatever maximizes the utility of the universe.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna try to drill down a little more just so I can understand it better. So, is the goal then to help other people? Is that sort of where you're coming from?
Yeah, I think so. My interpretation of doing good is usually about making the world better,
Okay.
happier, less suffering for other people.
Right. Okay. So making people happier, helping them not suffer, things like that.
Yeah.
Are you? This is maybe an obvious question, but are you a people as well?
I am a person.
Okay.
Yes.
So part of this about you having a good life, or you, I don't know,
Yeah,
somehow
I think
enjoying
so.
your life a bit more?
Well, I think it's the view might kind of ultimately come down to like as long as my basic needs are met, above that, I should be working for others.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Because that hits me a little differently. So, um, okay.
And maybe here's another way to say it too, that like a thought I've had more
Okay.
explicitly actually at various points in my life is that I should pay attention to my own needs to the degree that they enable me to do more good for others outside myself.
Okay. All right.
You
That
know,
gives
there's
me a
these
couple of,
there's like
yeah.
I don't know, there's this story about a guy who ends up donating everything he has to try to help others and ultimately destroys himself, and like that's kind of the counterpoint that
Right.
I I think the belief says that I should avoid is you can't neglect yourself entirely,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Put on
you
your
should.
face mask before helping others with their face mask. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It makes me think of some questions. We'll get to those in a minute. But first, I just want to see, like, on a scale from 0 to 100, where 0 would be you don't believe this at all, it can't possibly be true, and 100 is like this is definitely true, I couldn't be wrong about this. Where do you think you fall?
Right now in this point in life, somewhere around
Okay.
75 to 80.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. So, um, So let's imagine a hypothetical. If your basic needs are met, let's say everyone's basic needs are met, all the people of Earth, they have food and shelter and whatever is on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, right?
All right.
Um, how do you want to distribute these goods that you're providing? Like, would you be comfortable taking any of them for yourself, or does everybody get those sort of above baseline? Everybody else get the above baseline?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable. I don't think I'm
Okay. Okay.
like overly self-sacrificing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I'm just trying to, like when you say my basic needs have been met and then it all goes out to everybody else, that's different from, maybe everybody should be lifted equally or something
Yeah,
like that.
I'd
Okay.
say that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good way to put it.
And presumably, like, you, you're happy lifting everybody's boats. Like, there's
Right.
not like a particular group who needs, yeah. Okay. All right.
No, yeah, I think my in group tends to be the entire group.
Right, right. Because that's of course a thing a lot of people deal with. If I give to charity, does it only affect people in my community, or maybe does it affect people across the world?
Hmm.
And it sounds like you're interested in everybody's well-being.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes. Very.
okay, all right. So what would so you have this belief. It's a little bit unclear where it comes from, other than the desire for other people to be happy or content, or living a good life. You obviously have a compassion.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it maybe there's three aspects to that. One is definitely religious views that have worked
like a
their way
religious background. Okay.
into my kind of unconscious state of being.
Right.
There's wait, there were three. Now there's only two. But there's part of it is the I know, like just emotional sense
Right.
of I feel bad when I see people suffer, and I feel good. I feel good when I see people autonomous
Right.
and happy and being able to live the life that they want.
Yeah.
And then the third one is just like again, like the unexamined part of it is the source. Like I don't think I've ever really went through a period of conscious reflection on this and come out and saying, yes, I still have this belief.
Right. Right.
And
It's just
so
sort
in
of
that sense, the source is a little murky. It's
right.
that,
It's just there in you as a
yeah,
compulsion, in a sense.
right.
Okay. So what could you learn? I think I'll ask the easier one first. What could you learn that would make you less confident that this is how you should behave?
Uh,
Is there
uh,
anything that could make you less confident?
yes.
Okay.
And it would be essentially that, existence ends when I die.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. So let me say this back, because I didn't expect that. Um, so it sounds like you're saying, if you found out there's no afterlife, that everything ends with someone's death, your confidence that you should do good would go down. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe maybe in the end it wouldn't, but it seems like now, yeah, that,
Okay.
essentially if this is all there is and it's just, a few decades, then, just enjoy your life.
Interesting. Okay. So I hear a couple of things in your response. One is doing good in the world might be difficult. Is that part of your belief?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it takes a sustained commitment and you know, structuring your life significantly around it. The
Okay.
strong form of it, and that's why I wanted to
Right.
call those two out. It's like there's
Right.
a weak form that is easy to just kind of blow off, which is yeah. When opportunities arise, take them, but
Right. Versus that being the sole focus of the
or the major
optimization problem.
focus, or like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a major
Okay.
decision factor.
Okay. So if you found out there's no afterlife, your confidence would go down, because life is short, and and doing good in the world, helping other people, is difficult, and maybe you'd shift focus on enjoying your own life. Is that what you're
Yeah, I
saying?
mean, maybe part of that is actually selfish in that there like reveals some selfishness in the belief of I feel like I should do this, and part of it is that I'll reap the rewards of it later.
Interesting.
The,
Yeah.
the reward is a better world.
Right. Yeah. You said your three reasons. One of them is this being steeped in Western religion.
Yeah,
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Let's drill into that a little bit. So I heard you say that it's difficult to do good in the world, but I also heard you say it might be rewarding personally, because you don't like seeing people struggle, you don't like seeing them suffer, and you do like seeing them thrive. Is
yeah, and then and also in there, I think it's just the like joy of problem solving. These are difficult problems. I
right?
should be
Like, how
able
did
to
we
solve
get
them.
water to this group in some abandoned, faraway place or something?
Yeah, I think, or for me, it's largely been about like the education system.
Uh huh.
How can we build a better education system?
Right.
Very difficult problem,
Okay.
but
So
also
yeah,
one that could major effects, even far beyond education, positive
well,
effects.
that's an interesting part of it. Let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because and don't let me put words in your mouth, but I almost see maybe there's a little thing to drill into here where, right, if there is no afterlife, then wouldn't doing good in the world mean more because this is the only thing people have?
Yeah. So yes, I think
Does that?
it's a good point.
I mean,
Maybe
I don't
let
want to. Yeah, sorry.
me try to clarify a little bit the idea of like
Okay.
if there's no afterlife. Maybe it's not entirely the question of is there or is there not an afterlife, but more is there a higher existence, like higher meaning? Is there something beyond the day-to-day life that you experience?
Okay.
Is there a greater truth out there? If there's a greater truth out there, then there's a reason to do these things. If there's not, then why
Interesting.
why
Okay.
bother?
All right. So maybe I'm hearing
And
you
part of
say
that
it's
is the like life continues after my particular life.
hmm. Okay. So I think I hear you saying that, and maybe I'm not quite clear because I sort of heard both, but I thought I heard you say that it's not so much about the afterlife, it's about there being a higher meaning.
Yeah, I guess what I want to try to clarify is it's not really about like do I continue to be conscious as
Okay.
who I am right now after I die? It's more, is there a is there an order, existence, meaning to the universe
I see.
beyond the like my particular span of life and whatever meaning I decide to attribute to it.
Okay. So part of this conversation then is there meaning beyond your mortal existence?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I hear you saying that you imagine there could be, and if there were, part of it would probably involve doing good in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you didn't, if you came to believe that there wasn't a higher purpose, your confidence that you should do good in the world would go down.
Yes, I think so. Right, because there would not be that external factor in the mix.
Okay.
If I decide to do good, it would only be because my arbitrary decision-making apparatus
Okay.
says, "Yeah, let's do that." And if
Okay.
that's really what everything boils down to, why choose that rather than live a comfortable, quiet life and then die?
Right. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question that might sound the same as something we've talked about before, but I think it's different. How confident are you that there is a higher purpose in life?
Is this a scale of 0 to 100?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or and
Scale.
are we saying like this is a probability scale or
Well, I like to call it a confidence scale. It's, if you'd like, we can try to calibrate this with some other things, but 50
yeah?
50 is like, I can't decide. I'm right in the middle. And, are you really close to 100 or are you really close to 50 or?
Okay, let's hear the question again. Just
Okay.
make sure I'm answering the right one.
So we talked before, right? How confident are you that you should do good in the world? And you said you're about 75%. And it
Mhm.
sounds like one of the things that's getting you there might be the idea that there's a higher purpose to life.
Right.
And if you lost that higher purpose, your confidence would go down. So now I'm just stepping back one level and I'm saying, what's your confidence that there is a higher purpose?
Is there a higher purpose? Uh, so so there's two factors that make it difficult to answer that. One
Yeah.
is my lack of knowledge,
Okay.
and the other one is the imprecision of the concept of higher power, higher purpose.
Okay. Fair. Yeah.
And uh, so I would probably be somewhere around 50 on this.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, maybe this gets into the vagary of the scale, but it sounds like you're using something that you're 50-50 about to prop up a belief that you're 75% about.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because
That feels comfortable to you.
I think so, because even if the higher purpose question went down to 0, I would still be above 50 on the should do good.
Okay. Yeah. Great. That
Because
would be. Yeah. That's a
because
great.
there's still two things. One is like, well, what if I decide whatever? There's nothing outside of whatever arbitrary morality or like purpose I give to the world. I would still probably choose something along my current beliefs,
Okay.
just
So what I
because
heard
they're.
you say. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So yeah. So you're kind of going back to you really had three prongs, right? One is the idea that there's a higher power. One is the idea that you have empathy and compassion. And I actually can't remember the third. I'm sorry about that.
Just the unexamined factor that it's just there,
Okay. All
and
right.
I
That's
haven't
just something
really
in your gut.
reflected. Yeah. So right. So if I decide there's no quote higher purpose, and what that means is basically whatever I choose the purpose to be is the purpose. If that was the decision I had made, I would still probably choose something along like what I have chosen, although maybe less zealously. And there would
Okay.
also still be the emotional factor of it feeling good to do this. So I think both of those things would drive me still up, but less so on the first factor because nobody but
Okay.
me is telling me to do this.
Let's try to tease this out. Maybe we can't use exact numbers or anything, but if you've got three things propping up this belief: the idea that there might be a higher power, the idea that this generally feels good, you have compassion, you you hate seeing people suffer, you like seeing people enjoy themselves, and there's just something in your gut that's telling you this is true. These are kind
Sure.
of the
Well,
three prongs.
yeah, I don't think we probably shouldn't say higher power though. Like I don't think any of this in my
Higher
mind
purpose. Sorry,
higher
higher
purpose,
purpose.
right? Like I'm not hoping some God figure will reward me later.
Yeah, I misspoke. Higher purpose. There's some higher purpose.
Yeah.
So let's say you found out with complete certainty, you were shown beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was no higher purpose to life. There's no afterlife. There's no structure. There's no meaning. And so all you've got left is the fact that you have compassion and empathy for people. You hate to see them suffer. And you've got this thing in your gut that's telling you that you should do good in the world. Which I don't think you'd still be at 75. You'd be closer to 50. How
I would
close?
be I would I would lean more toward the weaker form of the belief. You should do good, but
Okay.
not you should. Doing good should not be the organizing driver of your life necessarily.
Okay. Okay. So if there's a higher purpose, then you should focus on maximizing the good that you do. And if there's no higher purpose, you should do good.
Yeah, I think maybe at least part of that comes from the question of these 80 to 100 years that I have. Is that it, or is there more afterwards? And if there's more afterwards, then whatever I choose to do during this period isn't everything. So there's there's if I devote these 80 to 100 years to a particular thing, that's fine. But if the 80 to 100 years are the only thing there is, then I don't want to waste it on a potentially like incorrect belief.
Hmm. Okay. 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 All right. So let's try the other side of it. What could make you more confident? Presumably finding out that there is a higher purpose.
Yeah, I think some kind of evidence or uh, more confident belief that there is that it's just not like the idea you should do good is not ultimately just an arbitrary uh, decision that my brain made.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think what's really interesting about this, and I'm gonna maybe push a little bit in a way that might make you feel defensive.
Okay,
So brace
do it.
yourself, right?
All right.
Okay.
I like to be pushed, so go for it.
Okay. Because I can't stop thinking about this idea that let's imagine a hypothetical. Let's call him. Uh, let's imagine Alexandra.
Okay.
Okay, and Alexandra lives in India. She's one of my friends, and she has this belief. We talked about her belief the other day, and her belief is that if this life is all we have and there's no higher purpose to it, then we should maximize the good that we do in this world because this is all we have. What would you say to her to change her mind?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I would, because I think it's a good point.
Okay. Okay.
Like, yeah, going back to the beginning of this, this view that I have is unexamined, I think,
Yeah.
largely, and I think that's one of those points where I could examine it. Is
Okay.
yeah, like, if given the fact that this life is it, how should that influence this belief? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there would be things pushing me both ways, and that's one of them. Is like, yeah, maybe that means that it's even more important to try to cultivate a world where people can live how they want, because that's all we're gonna get.
Right. Yeah. That's what Alexandra told me. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good point, right? Yeah. So like, if the opposite is true, that this life is just one stage. If you live a short, horrible life, well, sorry, but there's more later. Hopefully you can make up for it.
Well, I could also imagine, so this would be a different hypothetical, but I could also imagine that the purpose of life might be suffering.
The purpose of life would be suffering.
Well, you were talking about a higher purpose, right? How do we know that the higher purpose might not be suffering? Like maybe I don't understand what you mean by higher purpose. I generally think about sort of religious mandates, but what does it mean to you? Why could it not be suffering, the higher purpose?
Yeah, I think so I tend to, in my indecision, in my like space of possibilities, only consider that the universe is either neutral or cares for us. And the question of maybe there's a universe that's, for whatever reason, designed to increase suffering. I don't know.
I look around and I see a lot of suffering in the world, so I kind of wonder.
Probably less now than at any other time in human history.
Less now, but some people might say we're messing up the natural order of things by
we are.
Medicine.
We may be careening toward oh, I see what you're saying. Like
like the world was created and we were meant to suffer, and we're stopping it, and it's not good. We should be suffering more.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if that was the reality, I would be happy to fight against the order of the universe.
Let's consider. Yeah. So that's a great. I hear that your gut. So yeah, this is really interesting, because I heard you say that even if you found out without a shadow of a doubt that the purpose of the world is to suffer, that is the higher purpose that this universe has, you would fight against it. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, partly true, but I think, though, I think part of one idea in the mix there that confuses things is that I think suffering can be a positive experience.
Okay.
We grow, we become better, we understand reality better through suffering. So it's not like it's a irredeemable bad.
So in this hypothetical, though,
be eliminated.
It's just suffering. It's just suffering that's the higher purpose. And in anything you learn from suffering, that's actually bad.
Yeah. So if I found out, if God came down and said, "Hey, here's what's going on. This is what you need to do." Yeah. I would still fight against it.
So that's really interesting. I think that's something to focus on, right? Because it's not the higher purpose that is really calling you to do good.
Well, I think it would give support to this belief.
It would
that
bolster
I want to have regardless.
Yes, exactly. Like if it aligns with what you already believe, it would bolster it. But
Right.
if it didn't align with what you believed, you'd ignore it. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Okay, so something else is giving you that confidence that you want to do good in the world. I have some guesses. I mean, we talked about two others, right? It feels good to do good. You don't like to see people suffer. Um,
Okay. Yeah, I think, but maybe before your guesses, yeah, I do feel like there is kind of like this unshakable stance at my core
yeah,
that isn't open to contrary evidence.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
And
So
where did that come from? I mean, I can try to, you know, rationalize it, but I don't know ultimately.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, part of it, yeah. I hesitate to give you answers, but I don't think it's anything that you weren't thinking, right? We've evolved as social creatures and things like that. Um, but yeah, I think that's really key. Even if you found out that the higher purpose to the universe was suffering to no end, just suffering, you'd fight against it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it
So
would.
that what that sounds like to me is that the majority of what's getting you to 75% is not the idea that there might be a higher purpose. Like we can throw
Yeah,
that away and
right.
you
I
still
think
feel
so.
called. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say yes. I would think so. Although, I mean, maybe there's this is again getting back to the vagueness of higher purpose. Like there can be higher purpose in a sense of, you know, there's some plane of existence or consciousness that we don't really, you know, experience day to day, and that thing is really where reality is, and it
Right.
determines truth. But then there's also the higher purpose of being a member of a species that has a life that is more than me, and there can be
Okay.
that higher purpose as well, even if it's still ultimately, you know, secular, humanity based.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna guess something and you tell me if this feels right or if I'm missing something. But do you think a lot of this just comes down to that feeling you have about feeling bad when you see people suffering and feeling good when people are happy?
It feels like no, actually, that's there, but also again, there's just this core belief that is there and
Interesting.
is not. I mean, you know, maybe it originates from that, and at this point, it just has its own other independent existence.
Do you mind if I test that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
So if that were true, then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you would be just as happy helping people in a distant village in India as you would helping people who you know, who you can see.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that the case?
is it the case that I would be just as happy helping some distant other in an
Who you
abstract?
can't see? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe even it might even be that I would be more happy with that.
Interesting.
Like, I, you know, going back to the unexamined aspects of this, I think what makes me feel best is more abstract than the like in concrete interpersonal interactions. I think I tend to challenge people more and be okay with suffering more because I know suffering is, you know, going to make you better. But when I'm thinking
Interesting.
about people in the abstract, I don't think, oh, I want to make people suffer.
That's really
But,
interesting.
but I
So,
might
so
think
in
like,
your
but I mean, think like you, my friend, are suffering, and that's there are some good aspects to that.
oh, that is really interesting. Okay. Okay. So then I was probably wrong, right? That this it's not about how you feel helping people. There's something else that just is giving you this impulse.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a it's a combination of the. the emotional, kind of empathetic feeling of it,
Yeah.
and my particular personality of being very kind of logical, problem focused, and if there's a problem, I want to solve it,
Right.
and I should solve the biggest problems that I can solve.
Let me see how this hits you. I'm not really sure where this is going. Maybe this is just being argumentative, but it sounds like you're saying in your personal life, maybe with people you know, people in your social circle, people who are your neighbors and things like that, you're more comfortable being, um, I don't know, rough around the edges. You're more comfortable saying, "Oh, chin up. It'll help you in the long run to go without some food for tonight because you'll learn character." But for someone who's across the world, who is an abstract, maybe statistic on a chart, you think, oh, if this person is hungry, I really want to help them. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it has to do with my sense that helping a person is what, like, actions you would take to help a person are different than actions you would take to help a group. And when
Okay.
you're helping a person, yeah, there's a different dynamic. Like, you need to connect with them as a person. And one way to bolster your community through personal interactions is to challenge people and to help them grow, and to,
Interesting. Yeah. How
but you
would
don't
you
really
feel?
like challenge a group.
Yeah, I was going to say, how would you feel if somebody said, these starving people in this remote village, it builds character. Let them starve.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Okay. All right. Okay. Interesting. So it almost sounds like the higher purpose you're sort of hoping is true. You think maybe if there is a higher purpose, it would bolster this, but if it goes against this belief, you would ignore it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not primarily, maybe to start, but it's not primarily the fact that you have empathy that's getting that's really giving you the confidence in this, exactly because you want to do it even when you can't experience the benefits of that empathy, even when it's an entry in your bank statement, as opposed to here's $1, go get yourself a sandwich, right? So it's not the higher purpose, and it's not the emotion. So what's left?
What's left? Well, there's this.
What's getting you up to 75%? Like what's this calling in you that you'd be willing to go against the purpose of the universe in order to fulfill?
Okay, the two things, I guess. One is just it being there as a, like, it's, I think you can have a belief that no longer has a sound basis, right? It can just be there
Sure.
as an its own entity that exists.
Yeah.
So
I think
putting
lots
that,
of people have beliefs like that.
yeah, and they're like the reasons that you mentioned may have gotten me to that point, but they're no longer necessary to support it.
Okay.
But maybe the other thing is, like, I guess the rational part of me, rational logical part that says that this is a good policy. Like,
Okay.
suffering is bad. If you're willing to acknowledge that suffering is bad, then doing good is a good choice. And if there was very strong evidence, I don't know what it would look like, but if there was very strong evidence that said that there's a higher power out there that wants the universe to suffer, then my I would be willing to fight against it with the rational aspect, like my rational aspect of that doesn't make any sense, basically.
Hmm.
Why
Okay.
would it be? Yeah, like, it doesn't make any sense that it would be better to suffer than to not suffer. So I don't believe it.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, maybe that gets into like what exactly this higher. I mean, you've said it a couple times, right? It's a little vague, the idea of a higher purpose, and so like I because I don't understand the concept, I guess I can imagine it being anything. Maybe the higher purpose and the highest purpose of the universe is to, um, I don't know, make paper clips or something like that, right?
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah. So maybe in a universe where we can state that the purpose of the universe is to suffer, it's one that whatever is making it that purpose is kind of like a counter to us as humans, because it's clearly not the case that we want to suffer. We want the opposite. So
okay.
it can't
Okay.
be, I guess, yeah, maybe in that sense, like, logically, it cannot be that the universe as a whole, in a unified, harmonious sense, has decided that suffering is best, because it's not. That is demonstrably not the case for living creatures that we know
Okay. I'll take a stab at this. Again, maybe this isn't helpful, but since we've come back to this higher purpose idea, I guess I can imagine our universe is in a jar, in a simulation or something, and there's the species that created this jar, created this simulation, uses our suffering to power their uh, you know grid, right? Like the Matrix or something like that. They extract
of.
suffering in order to do some computation or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. So then there may be power, a higher power that wants suffering, but I wouldn't call that a higher purpose. I mean, maybe it's a higher, anyway. Even if it's a higher purpose, it's not one that that I belong to.
Okay.
It's something else that's acting against me, rather than the higher purpose in the sense that I belong to something more than just me.
All right. We kind of skipped over. So I'm going to try to get back to what you had started saying, because we sort of skipped over this really interesting thing that you said, which is maybe the belief is there and is no longer being propped up by anything concrete. Is that the
Yeah.
first thing I heard you say? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, like maybe what got you there was partially this idea that maybe there's a higher power. Maybe what got you there was partially this idea that, sorry, higher purpose. Maybe what got you there to begin with was the, feelings of empathy and things like that. But maybe what you're left with is this belief without necessarily thinking those things are good reasons for continuing to hold the belief. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about holding beliefs that aren't backed by things you currently think are good reasons for holding that belief?
I mean, yeah. Usually, I'd say that's terrible. Stop.
Okay. Okay. But
and I,
why
and I think,
usually?
largely in my life, I do try to avoid that. And if I sense that there's a belief that's not backed by evidence, I examine it, and
Yeah.
I'll change.
Yeah.
And this is one of those that has been relatively immune to that process, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think
Let's.
maybe because
Yeah.
ultimately I still think it's not. I do think that belief is still propped up by substance, and it's not just dangling there anymore.
Okay.
But it's all. But yeah, it's been a belief I've struggled with, the soundness of its foundation.
So what's the substance?
Complex, right? I mean, it's all of these things. It's that I I guess I do still have this not very confident belief that there is a higher purpose in which compassion and working for others plays a role, and that even if it's not there, just living as a human, I'm a human. I should be part of the human process, and part of it is helping out your group,
Mhm.
uh, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because it seems like whenever we look at any of these in particular, they hold up sort of halfway. But
Yeah,
like even feeling good, you're like, no, 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 no. I actually prefer to do it when I don't feel good. I actually prefer to do it on my bank statement and not in my personal life. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I'm having a hard time sort of putting all this together and thinking, okay, this is probably what's getting Alex to that 74%. Like it seems like each time we look at one, it sort of scurries away.
Yeah. So I mean, does it have to be that there's a single one that's getting there? Maybe it's just the combination of all of these uncertain things that.
Maybe. I mean, if I told you I held a belief for based on 5 reasons, none of which I was confident in, but I had a relatively high degree of confidence in the core belief. What would you think about that?
Sorry, say that one more time. So
So
there's.
I've got like a lot of poor reasons to prop up a belief, and I have high confidence in that belief.
Mhm.
Does
But I
that
think that.
Do you
Yeah, I think
like
so. I
that?
mean, I
Okay.
do. I think maybe it shows that really when you say confidence, I'm still thinking about probabilities.
Mm,
And if I have three independent sources of information that give me that say that there's a low probability that something's going to happen, or that there's some probability that it'll happen, or that there's like basically if I have three low confidence sources of information, collectively they can lead to high confidence that that thing is true.
hmm. So let's imagine there's a new physics paper out, and they have this astounding claim about gluons or something. I'm not a physicist, but
Okay.
and in the paper it explains we did 3 tests. Each test has a 50% chance of being accurate or something like that. And so we hold this gluon result at 75% confidence. So that seems plausible, I guess, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I don't know how it
Okay,
would actually end up right, but like if you have three independent tests that are each 50-50, you should be fairly confident that that thing
gotcha.
holds.
Yeah, yeah, because you have a coin flip chance of each one, but each one, all of them being tails or all of them heads, is low.
Yeah, I guess right. This isn't really. Yeah, I'm confused here too. That's not really about probability. It's that like
Okay, sorry.
there's a there's a there's an answer in each of these tests, but the confidence in that answer is low. But since all of them are consistent,
Yeah.
it's much more likely that that answer is correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe this was a diversion and not helpful, but like for
But I do
example,
think back to that probably is what, back to your question a while ago, that I think that is what's giving me the 75, is that no individual one of these strands holds much water, but they're all consistent.
okay. Okay. All right. Let's try one last thing.
Okay.
What do you think? All right. Two questions. What do you think the best argument against this belief is?
I think the best argument would be, let me see if I can verbalize it. But yeah, it it comes from the sense that like ultimately there's no meaning. So it's like if there's no, what would it be? Yeah, basically like there's no truth to this belief outside of you. So if something else is better for you, do it instead.
Mhm. Which, to be fair, might still include like if I didn't do this, I would feel bad, and so I should still do it, but only to that extent.
Yeah, like I may still make right that I may still make the same decisions. Like if
Right. You'd probably
getting back
not
to
go
I think
around kicking homeless people.
exactly like you
Yeah.
mentioned your grandfather earlier, like that idea. Like if there's no external thing saying be good, it's not like I'm gonna beat bad all of a
Right.
sudden.
Right. Right. You just might not do it
I
so
just
brashly or something like that
yeah,
to your own detriment, I suppose.
right. Yeah, that's a good point. Like I wouldn't do it when it conflicted with other desires I have, like other things that I think would benefit myself.
Right. Okay.
Well, that's not strictly true, right? Like even if it's all arbitrary, I'd still be willing to make some sacrifices of myself to help others, because
Right.
I'm a social creature.
Yeah. I mean, presumably, there'd be a calculus, right? Like maybe you wouldn't give up your first ice cream cone in order to save someone across the world from starving, but you'd probably give up your 30th ice cream cone.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That number would
Yeah. Somewhere
go
in there.
more or less one way or the other.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you think, and then this, I think, is the last question. Do you think there might be a better reason for holding this belief? One that you haven't given me, but maybe you should use to prop up the belief.
That is a good question. I hope so. I'd like some more reasons. What would
Yeah.
that be, though? Well, I didn't really mention too much the evolutionary part that you mentioned, like that being a member of a group. Part of what I've evolved to do is to try to bolster my group. So that I mean, I haven't in the past explicitly considered that very much as a reason for or against the belief.
Gotcha.
So that would at least be an alternative, factor that I could think of.
Okay.
Or maybe that ultimately is just explaining the cause of the emotional reactions I have.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I wondered. Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Humans
those
are
are.
complex, right? I don't think evolution only goes so far in explaining why we make decisions. We make a lot of weird decisions, and
Totally. And there's definitely people who don't care to be helpful or good.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah, right.
thanks for this conversation, Alex.
Thank you very much, Chucky. I love what you're doing. I hope you keep doing it.